John Cena's heel turn was one of the most shocking moments in modern professional wrestling. It sent shockwaves through the industry, dominated headlines across sports and entertainment media, and promised to reshape the WWE storytelling in a way not seen since Hulk Hogan joined the NWO. But now that it's over, the only thing more stunning than the turn itself is how utterly forgettable the entire run became. What should have been a career-defining reinvention devolved into a limp, anticlimactic mess, and not just because of creative misfires. It failed because it truly never had the full commitment of the WWE, of John Cena himself, or the key supporting players, especially The Rock, whose sudden disappearance left a gaping hole in the narrative. When Cena turned heel earlier this year, it was treated like the second coming of Hollywood Hogan. Fans couldn't believe it. The man who'd spent the better part of 2 decades telling children to never give up had suddenly turned into a bitter, manipulative villain, verbally tearing apart fan favorites, belittling legends, and blaming the WWE Universe for his years of sacrifice going unappreciated. The biggest heel move John Cena performed is when he didn't like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't be like John Cena. Subscribe now. The promo made headlines on ESPN, Bleacher Report, Rolling Stones, and yes, even CNN. Wrestling fans flooded social media, some praising the WWE for finally doing the unthinkable, others skeptical about where it would go. For a moment, the buzz was real. Cena's promos were sharp, personal, venomous. He mocked his previous persona, burned bridges with former allies, and seemed poised to usher in a dark new era in the WWE. But the promise of a meaningful shift never materialized. So let's not pretend otherwise. The heel turn never had a purpose except the first initial turn. That was the plan. That was the hook. The Rock's involvement gave Cena's arc a direction, a purpose, a legacy clash that could have rivaled Hogan vs. Rock from WrestleMania 18. But after that night, The Rock vanished. Some say it was due to film obligations. Others speculate creative disagreements. Regardless, his absence gutted the story. Without The Rock, Cena's character was left in limbo. It wasn't Hogan feuding with Sting or Austin battling McMahon. It was a Hollywood megastar turning heel and then being left with no one to fight. If there's one thing a good heel turn can do, it's make stars out of others. Think of Bret Hart's anti-American run elevating Stone Cold Steve Austin. Think of Seth Rollins turning on the Shield and launching Reigns and Ambrose. Cena, for all his star power and media pull, gave absolutely nothing back to the roster. Nor did he have to. Had the plan been for Cena to remain babyface during his farewell tour, I would have thought nothing negative of doing the Greatest Hits tour. But he was a heel. Traditionally, the heel's job is to put over a babyface. He put no one over. Instead of using his time as a villain to put over fresh talent, think LA Knight, Carmella Hayes, or even Braun Breaker. Cena stayed in the spotlight for himself. The promos were always about him. The matches, few and far between, were always about how Cena was still the measuring stick. The opportunity to pass the torch were abundant. Cena just never extended his hand. One of the biggest injustices of the entire heel run, and the one that wrestling historians will remember bitterly, is what happened to R-Truth. And what was meant to be a career-invigorating match, R-Truth faced Cena on Saturday night's main event in what fans assumed was a symbolic elevation. The crowd was hot, the match was solid, and there was real emotion behind it. Then the next day, WWE quietly released R-Truth. No press release, no farewell, no explanation. Ironically, Truth was wearing a farewell tour spoof shirt that mocked John Cena's current fit, not knowing it was symbolic for his own. After fan backlash, Truth was rehired just a week later, but instead of a redemption arc or even acknowledgement of what happened, he was immediately shuffled into a comedic sidekick role. He went from nearly retiring Cena to running around backstage looking for the 24/7 title again, metaphorically speaking. If ever there was a sign that this heel turn was aimless, it was this. In hindsight, Cena never needed to turn heel. The fans still loved him again. For the first time in a long time, it was cool to like John Cena. In an era where legends like Edge and Randy Orton are embraced in their twilight years, Cena was getting some of the best reactions of his career. Whether it is nostalgia or genuine admiration for his dedication, people were happy to see him. It didn't need to reinvent himself. he needed to reflect. Had Cena returned as a full-fledged babyface, WWE could have told a story of legacy, redemption, and mentorship. He could have been the final boss for new talent to try and overcome. Not with bitterness, but with respect. Think Ric Flair's retirement angle, or even Kurt Angle's farewell, minus the awkward Baron Corbin finale. Instead, they turned him heel for shock value with no structure to hold it up, and the result was a cold, disconnected run that made neither Cena nor his opponents better. Just when it seemed like the WWE had finally committed a long-term heel version of John Cena, it was over. On a random episode of Friday Night SmackDown with no prior tease, Cena grabbed the mic, said he was sorry, and just undid it all. It was like that episode of South Park where BP had the oil spill.
We're sorry.
That's not an exaggeration. He apologized to the fans, he acknowledged his bad behavior, then he buried The Rock and Travis Scott in the same breath, mocking The Rock's inability to stick around and blaming Travis Scott. Then, without consequence, he said, "I'm done with the darkness, I'm back where I belong," and just like that, he was a babyface again. And just like that, the biggest heel turn in decades was over. One promo. No retribution, no reckoning, no storyline culmination. Just a fourth wall breaking speech, a few cheap shots at two absent celebrities, and the return of hustle, loyalty, respect gear the next week.
Geez, you guys know I don't want to ruin wrestling. I love wrestling.
It was like watching the ending of a long emotional movie only for the lead character to wake up and say, "Oh, it was just a dream." The only good part of this random turn was his entrance at SummerSlam, which featured his heel black and white entrance colors and a dramatic and jarring turn of color as the fans erupt. But what was the point? That's the question the fans are left asking. What was the point of all this? What did we gain from turning one of the most iconic baby faces in history into a villain for only a few months? There was no payoff, no story arc, no elevation of the product or the roster. Cena didn't put anybody over. The Rock never returned. Travis Scott was nothing more than a cameo. In our truth, perhaps the only person who came out of this with more fan support was brushed off like an afterthought. It was all for nothing. Cena's heel turn didn't tell a story, it didn't build a future, it didn't even sell a WrestleMania match. Instead, it stood as a short-term stunt for a company increasingly reliant on shock value and moments over meaningful character work. The Rock's vanishing act was the final nail. Let's circle back to The Rock. This entire story was predicated on their partnership. The Rock just disappeared. He no-showed the build to WrestleMania. He didn't cut any new promos. He didn't even send in a pre-taped rebuttal. There was never a match that centered on the biggest news of 2025. Never a showdown. The final few months of Cena's heel run felt like shadowboxing, cutting promos against a ghost. The Rock's absence left a black hole in the creative, and Cena's character collapsed into it. Whatever internal reasons led to The Rock's exit, maybe it was scheduling conflicts, maybe it was a disagreement with TKO leadership, maybe there's discomfort with the creative. It effectively killed the angle dead. Without that cathartic clash, the story lost its center. What stings the most isn't just the failure of the heel run, but the missed opportunity to do something with it. Cena could have used his heel run to elevate younger stars. He could have been the mountain they needed to climb. Someone like Bronson Reed, Montez Ford, or even Dominic Mysterio could have used a feud with Cena to rise. Instead, Cena remained isolated. He didn't mentor, he didn't pass the torch, he didn't even lose to anyone in a meaningful way. And if this is really your significant run, then WWE wasted a rare opportunity to build a future with one of the most bankable stars of the past. Somewhere in the middle of this mess, WWE tried to inject pop culture relevance by inserting Travis Scott into the mix. It was supposed to be a crossover merch tie-in, musical performances, media buzz. But what it became was a distraction. Fans never got a clear sense of what Travis Scott was even supposed to do in the Cena Rock team.
Crossroads!
Was he a manager, a narrator, a heel influencer trying to drive a wedge between the two legends? Instead, he appeared twice, both extremely awkward, and then vanished with The Rock. Cena's burial of Scott and his face-turning promo was scathing, and to many felt like a legit shoot. He wasn't wrong, but by then, the damage was done. The failure of Cena's heel turn wasn't just about one man. It was a reflection of WWE's broader struggle in the TKO era. You asked the fans to invest, to care, and to believe. And when you hit them with a shock and no substance, they stopped giving you that trust. It is very clear that TKO/Triple H is very good at creating pivotal moments throughout the year, but getting from point A to point B of every angle is a chore, a boring, wash the dishes and dry them with your nutsacks chore. I have long championed the idea that what WWE needs is a team of writers for their pay-per-views and a team of writers for their episodic shows, working under one manager, maybe Triple H, to create one riveting experience. There is absolutely no reason to not make your shows must-see TV. Cena's turn could have been great. The elements were there. A legendary hero turned bitter, a personal rivalry, real world perils, a roster full of rising stars that needed a rub. Instead, WWE gave us a turn with no payoff, a feud with no opponent, a run with no consequences, a return to the status quo with no explanation. It's the equivalent of promising fans a revolution and giving them a recycled action figure with a dildo as a head so fans can go fuck themselves. In the end, John Cena's heel turn in 2025 will go down in history as one of the most bizarre missed opportunities in modern wrestling. It had everything going for it. A megastar ready to reinvent himself. A built-in feud with all the babyfaces of John Cena's greatest rivals. A roster full of fresh talent, and a fan base ready for something bold. But what they got was a heel turn that shocked the world, and then faded into the background like a glitch in a video game. A few angry promos, a botched firing, a ghost opponent, and then, just like that, it was over. We didn't use Cena's heel run to elevate new stars, they didn't tell a story worth finishing, they didn't commit. And Cena? He didn't burn it down, he dipped his toes in the villainy and pulled it right back out. In the end, the only real heel in this story was the creative team, who fooled us into thinking this would be different.